0 on today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. Hi there. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm the Associate Broker, Residential Sales Manager at ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, and I believe we're episode 146. So, boy, I just came in low energy on that one, didn't I? Saying, okay, just call me Jeb. Anyway, been a long week. It's only Thursday, and it still has been a long week. And this is like the first time this entire week I've actually gotten to work on my own business. And that's one of the things about being a real estate agent, and that I train my agents on, and a lot of contractors, a lot of people who work for themselves. You know, you got to work on your own business and not just work in your business. You wind up spending a lot of time with your clients, taking care of your clients, providing the services and whatever for your clients, no matter who they are. But you still have to take that time out to actually grow your business. We use the term working on your business, right? And like I said, hey, let's take a look at this. All right, it is Thursday, 2:00, and I'm finally doing the first thing this week actually for Ray. Look at me, taking care of myself. Self-care, very important, boys and girls. And not that I'm really complaining or anything like that. I mean, I volunteer for all of this stuff. Monday we had our sales meeting where we went over new changes, and I'm going to be discussing those changes with you here in a bit. Tuesday we had I attended a first-time real estate agent get-together with Pioneer Title and Heather King. That was with a couple of my agents. Mostly one, I like learning from Heather, right? And even though this is something I'm doing myself, I got to sit there and listen to Heather, host this first-time new agent workshop, get together, coffee clatch, whatever you want to call it, and sort of sit there and take notes and, honestly, steal her handouts and documentation for use on my own. And that was good and enjoyable. Then it's been just back-to-back VFW stuff this week. So I just, that's that. So, hey, let's talk. Enough about me. Let's talk about me. So, news. Let's just start with the news. All right. The big change has finally hit Arizona. No, it's not a lawsuit or anything like that. But what we do have is we have the Armless. That's the website that we put all of our listings on, has changed that cooperation agreement to where now a seller can hire a seller's agent to list their property. And if that agent lists it on MLS, they are no longer obligated to put anything at all on the line stating what the buyer broker would get if they bring a ready, willing, and able buyer that buys the house. This is that big change we've been talking about for forever. This is a big change that I've been warning people is coming, and now it's here. Within 15 minutes of that email going out, there was at least one listing that changed from whatever amount they were offering before down to 0. All right. Now, when you change a listing, especially when you're changing something, compensation, you're supposed to contact your owner and state, hey, I want to make a change to the listing. I want to rewrite this description. We want to do a price drop, right? Whatever it is, you're supposed to get that. There's an addendum form, or amendment form, where you go and you write down the change that you're going to make, and your lister, your seller, is going to authorize you to make that change. Right? So somehow, miraculously, out there was a agent who was able to get a hold of their seller within 15 minutes of that email coming out, have their seller to agree to offer the buyer side 0. Get that document written up, get them to sign it, and then get in the MLS and make the change. So by the time I gave my sales meeting on Monday, I was able to go in the MLS, do a search. Now, MLS is not set up to where you can actually search by compensation to the buyer's agent. It used to be. I disagreed with it when you're capable of doing that. At some point, they got rid of that feature, and I'm very, very in agreement that they did that. But now we have a new situation here. All right, and that new situation is, since the buyer is effectively paying for their own agent now, one of the primary things a buyer needs to know at this point, all right, is how much am I going to be paying my agent out of my pocket? And how much of that cost to me is being offset by a seller's contribution? And a buyer can sit there and say, hey, I don't have enough to pay you, so I don't want to see any houses where the seller's not making a contribution. All right? Because they made that change earlier to make sure agents weren't screening that out, now the agents can't screen that out even upon request of their buyer. You know, it's a fluid thing. All right, and a lot of people don't work well in fluid and chaotic, really, environments. Right? I'm a chaos troll. I'm very comfortable when things are going crazy. So in this particular case, what's going on is a lot of people are flipping around trying to figure out what they're going to do, how are they going to do this, And hey, change is eternal. This is what happens. All right, the world that you go to sleep in might not be the same world you wake up in. Right, and anybody who doesn't understand that has not been paying attention through the 21st century here. So, and that's where we're at on that. So all the different brokerages, everybody individually, we're all trying to come up with our own ways to deal with this. Me and Steve, Lord knows you guys have been listening to me. I hope, all right. You guys know we've been talking about this for quite some time. We already had plans in place, and we're just executing them. All right. We were waiting for this day. Just like World War III never happened, but I guarantee you everybody had plans of what was going to happen on first day. This is day one, all right? Or at least Thursday was day one. Balloon went up, all right? And shells started raining in the Fulga Gap, all right? So we'll see how this all works out. What's going on in the market? It is probably the worst time in the last 3 years for sellers to decide to start getting froggy. All right? I can spin out in my head just think about what would happen if this court case and this change in armless had happened 2 years ago. Right? Remember, 2 years ago, strong sellers market. All right, multiple offer situations. Buyers were offering no inspections, no appraisal contingency, firstborn children, all that kind of stuff, just to get a freaking house. All right. Sellers made a lot of money. Sellers got really, really happy on that. And now because of this court case, those same sellers who used a real estate agent to buy their house and did not have to pay for that real estate agent to buy their house have now changed the game around. So now they're offsetting that traditional expense to the seller onto the buyer now. So a lot of buyers are going to have a wake-up call. A lot of agents are going to have to wake-up call. Just watching the chat on the boards, on the interwebs, all right? Just watching the various comments and chat and stuff like that is really, in some cases, really disheartening. Seriously, at one point I was like just sitting reading just like lines and lines of hate, and it frustrated me. It upset me. I'm like sitting here going, and ultimately it just boiled down to, once again, we, the real estate community, have failed to educate the consumer base about how the world works and how we got paid at the end of the day, and ultimately what we do for you. Right? And I'll admit that, this was a major problem that I had really, really early on, because I thought that part of my service and part of my service, part of my value proposition, that's a word you're going to get sick of hearing coming out of my face and everybody else lately. All right. But my value proposition is I'm going to make this relatively stress-free as much as I can. All right. I joke, and it's not really a joke. It's sort of a mission statement. I'm the one who stays up at 2 o'clock in the morning staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that can possibly go wrong on this transaction and how do I make sure it doesn't happen. All right. I do not tell you all the things that can go wrong on that. I will tell you the ones that are possible. I'll definitely tell you the ones that are probable. All right, but I'm gonna take that stress and just hold on to it for you. It's this thought just popped in my head. There is a ancient I don't know where it came from. I know it was very common in the United Kingdom around the 18th century and thereabouts. They used to have these people who were called sin eaters. Sineaters. All right. And what a sin eater did is when a person was died and they're laid out to wake and they're sitting there, they would invite this person who, for some reason, they had volunteered themselves from the community. Maybe they needed a job. Maybe they just couldn't make it in that modern 18th century workforce of whatever the hell they did back then that wasn't growing food and starving to death if they didn't grow food right. And they would come in and they would place a piece of bread on the deceased's body. And the sin eater would come in, all right, and for a nominal fee would ceremonially eat that piece of bread and thus take all of the sins of that individual from that person, ensuring they're a way to go in heaven, right? No idea where that came from, right? But, in these relationships, my early days, like I'd be the stress eater. I just hold it all in, it's like da-da-da-da-da. And it actually probably sort of warped my approach to real estate. And, just the very thought of having to get that emotionally involved with 3, 4, 5 different transactions in the same month, all right, is completely overwhelming to me. I know there's agents out there who do it, all right, and they have teams. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's because maybe I just internalize the stress of the situation that way, and they, for some reason, don't have it, all right? Maybe they give no Fs. Don't know. Not sure if I want to be that person. All right. So, that all being said, so I really keep it, what I was doing, all the craziness happening in the background, and you don't need to know, all right, that at the last moment, this closing almost didn't happen because some stupid piece of paper from the appraiser never showed up and we're trying to track that down because it's just going to wig you out. All right. And if it happens, it's going to be after everybody possible tries to make it happen and it still didn't happen or whatever the thing was. All right. But if I told you about every little thing that pops up in the middle of a transaction, people would go nuts. So, and this is already a very stressful point for anybody's life, buying or selling, right? If you get to the point where you can just buy or sell houses, without any thought or emotion to it, hey, give me a call. I'd love to have a client like you. But, that opaque, acting like a duck, calm, cool, serene on the surface, paddling like hell underneath, that a lot of agents were actually trying to get across to their clients. And now the clients are like literally watching Selling Sunset or, what is it, American Family, whatever, with that jackass who kept calling himself a realtor, really had this false understanding what our industry does. All right, no problem. Hey, I'm not particularly whining about real estate at this point, all right? Your average civilian does not know what a police officer goes through. Why is that police officer freaking out at you for speeding? Not because he's an asshole. It's because the night before he had to pull a fucking kid out of a wreck, possibly on that same street, and he's trying not to have that experience again. So a lot of people, have industries like this, and I think if you look back and there's how much stuff do you hold back, all right, from sharing with your clients or whatever your job is. I mean, maybe it's just your boss. Hey, if I tell my boss this, he's going to freak out for the next 30 minutes. And it might be just because you don't want him freaking out for the next 30 minutes. You're just going to quietly fix it, all right? Or, hey, you know what? I just got a blood test or something like that. My doctor wants me to come in with another blood test. I might not tell my spouse that. Right? Because I don't want to freak out about it until I know there's a reason to freak out about it. So people do this all the time. All right. However, because of the way this court case and everything came out and the narrative of, well, these guys aren't actually doing anything to earn their money, the consumer base, the population at large. And let's also talk about the other elephant in the room. There are bad agents out there. Right? And if you have enough people out there who are experiencing a bad relationship with their agent, they're happy to tell that story. Because remember, we're hardwired to track negative things, right? And the story about how you got screwed by your real estate agent is going to stick in people's head and be a lot more fun to tell at parties and stuff like that than, oh, I had a great transition, I love my house. Right. So there's that. That's another thing I actually blame National Association of Realtors for, because Article 15, us in the industry aren't capable. We literally are banned from calling out the bad actors. All right. And you don't actually have to cross the line into an ethics violation to be a dirtbag. Right. And there's people who tap dance on that line. They're in my industry today. If it wasn't for Article 15, I could probably name 3 names off the top of my freaking head of, that person's dirtbag. Right? Not much we can do about that. So here we are. So, but going back to this whole particular situation, not a good time for sellers to be playing these games. Not a good time for sellers to be coming up. Let's look at the numbers. I'm going to explain to you a couple things. First thing I want you to see. All right. 111.4. We are 1.4 off of being in a balanced market. All right. Supply is at 62.6. Supply is still going up. Remember that 62.6 means that we should be having 100 houses for sale. Instead, we only have 62 houses for sale because people don't want to get rid of their nice 3% interest rate. All right. Our demand is at 69.7, and guess what? That's going to start tracking different. Why is that going to start tracking different? Because we just saw over the last 2 days, interest rates actually came down. All right. FHAs are in the 6s now, boys and girls. All right. This is what we've been talking about for quite some time. When you see those FHA rates, when you see those rates start coming down into what people perceive as being a major change, all right, you're going to start seeing demand pop up. Now, what's holding this back is we're in the holidays. All right, remember, we're in the holiday doldrums, right? If those interest rates had dropped down back in May, June, July, all right, it would have been insane out there. But we got 2 months, all right, as we go through the holiday doldrums. Where are those interest rates going to be at the end of the 2 months? No idea. Really, really no idea. Hold on for a second. But I'm actually looking at maybe this January is going to be really, really intense, right? So if you are out there getting ready to buy houses and stuff like that, you might want to start getting everything in order right now, because January 1st, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking at our numbers here, what we got going on. Actives this week are 15,905. I checked it about an hour ago. It's actually, it was 15,995. Right, probably break 16,000 by next week. New listings are 1,867, down 112 from the previous week. We're not going to see a lot next week because of Thanksgiving. Contracts are 1,726, down 16. Our closings were 990. And coming into an MLS near you is 530. I'm going to put this thing out there on Thursday. Thursday is going to be Thanksgiving. All right, I'll take some time, open it up. Probably just run you this chart. Maybe even do a really quick verbal over the top of it. All right. I wouldn't be surprised to see 16 on the active. I wouldn't be surprised to see contracts really low because of the holiday. Contracts will probably drop down underneath that. New listings are going to drop even below that. It's holiday week, guys. This is what's going to happen. The numbers we're going to watch, and the numbers to watch are going to be whether or not we hit 110 over here on our Cromford number. All right, because let's take a look at what's happening in the towns out there. All right. I want you to notice right here that we now have 5 buyers marked right now. Surprise, Goodyear, Maricopa, Queen Creek, and Buckeye. These are the affordable housing areas. These are the houses that you're going to be sitting there. Your first-time home buyers are move into these areas, and now they're all buyers markets. All right. So part of this is actually because of the housing out there and has the housing filled in. A lot of these houses out there are sitting there at those 3-4% interest rates, which looks so good right now. These first-time homebuyer houses and stuff, because it's they can't transition out of it. Right? 1, they're in a buyer's market. All right. 2, if they sell, they're not going to have as much appreciation as other places. All right. And then they're going to be moving into a higher interest rate. All right. So that's where your deals are going to be found. Remember, investors, Buckeye, go get them, boys. All right. And let's continue on going up the list. Right. We have Peoria and Cave Creek. These are two balanced markets, right? And after that, we got a really sizable jump to Tempe, Scottsdale, Mesa, These are all still technically seller's market, but as you can see, we're still in free fall across the board. Lowest drop this time was Buckeye. Month over month dropped to 23, and Paradise Valley dropped over 23. Not a lot in common with those two, but those are the twos that dropped the most. The one that dropped the least, actually, on this one was Tempe. Tempe doing what Tempe does, all right? Seriously, between Tempe and Cave Creek, I never figured those two areas out, all right? Actually, hold on to this. You saw Cave Creek drop 27, so they actually dropped more than Buckeye and Paradise Valley that I was calling out earlier. Like I said, I can't figure out Cave Creek. So what does this mean to you, the consumer? Well, it depends on what side of the equation you're going to be on. If you're a seller, and if you were a seller and you don't need to sell, might not be the best time. If you do need to sell, this summer was the best time. All right, you're going to have to get really aggressive with the pricing. You're going to have to get really aggressive with the condition of your house. All right, good houses still sell. Don't think, oh, I'm just going to put it up on the market for full price in this condition and get it anymore. And you're going to have to look at seller's concessions. Seller's concessions to buyer's cost. All right, because the sellers and a lot of buyers out there are going to have to be signing buyer broker agreements now. I see multiple brokerages talking about that. People are passing around, hey, it's like they just started to hear about it for the first time, about what a buyer broker agreement is. And they're suddenly on board with the whole thing. So, this is going to start coming. As much as I say that this is a bad time for sellers to try to do this whole buyer broker and buyer concession thing, it's probably good that it's happening in these next 2 months, right? Because market's going to be slow, right? We're going to have more time to actually sit there and figure out what's the best way of going forward on these things. So that's what we're going to see on that. So next bit. I want to show you something. Okay, that worked. Maybe it worked a little bit too well. What I was doing is I was recording my buyer presentation as if I was interacting with you on the screen as your agent, and you were hiring me to be your real estate agent. And this is something I intended to use for training for my agents and also to get some practice on to let you guys know how it works. 48 minutes later, and I'm running out of time, and I can just really tell that trying to get this whole thing together is going to take way too long. That, and I still have 10 questions I want to answer. So I want to have like a little slideshow. Slide comes up with a question on it. I read the question, then I answer the question. And that's just not going to happen tonight. So hope you guys look forward to this being, well, next week's Thanksgiving. So maybe in a week or two, we'll get that whole thing out. And to be honest with you, I need to make sure that my little green light was on during that entire recording that I did for 48 minutes of my life, although it would make a good practice session. So, hey, no pithy comment on the way out of here. No glorious Shapiro-esque segue. All right, I want you guys to, watch your children and pets around the water. Don't drive in anything flooded. It's overcast today, and it'll probably be starting to get those winter rains. Work your circles. All right, take care of each other, and you guys have a really great weekend. I'll talk to you later.